The world knew Jungkook by many names: the king of underworld, the ghost, the shadow lord. To his enemies, he was the embodiment of fear, a man who ruled the criminal world with cold precision. Beneath his tailored suits and piercing gaze lay a man who rarely showed vulnerability. But it wasn't until he saw her. Jungkook wasn't the one to indulge in distractions. But the day his path crossed with a quaint coffee shop downtown, everything changed. He had been tailing an informant, his usual icy demeanor in place, when he happened to glance through the shop window. Inside, the aroma of coffee mingled with soft laughter, and the center of it was a young woman with a radiant smile. She was explaining coffee blends to a couple of customers, her eyes lighting up with every word. Something about her drew him in, an inexplicable pull he couldn't resist. For weeks, Jungkook allowed himself a rare indulgence, observing her from afar, not as a predator, but as a man inexplicably captivated. Her name was Ryan, and her coffee shop was a sanctuary. Ryan had always been ordinary. At least that's what she told herself. Running a coffee shop was her dream, and she poured her heart into every cup she brewed. But her life hadn't been kind. After losing her parents, she was left in the care of step parents who saw her as a source of income and not family. She didn't know that her unassuming life had caught the attention of a man whose name alone made powerful men tremble. One day, Jungkook decided he couldn't wait any longer and walked into a coffee shop, his presence commanding yet calm. Ryan, busy arranging pastries, didn't notice him at first. "Excuse me," he said, his deep voice cutting through the quiet hum of the shop. She turned, startled, and was met with the sight of a strikingly handsome man in a crisp black suit. His dark eyes seemed to pierce right through her. "Hi, welcome. What can I get for you?" she asked, her voice a bit too cheerful to mask her sudden nervousness. "Black coffee," he replied with his usual blank face, but only he knew how he was stopping himself from talking with her. He didn't want it to make her uncomfortable, not on the first meet. As she prepared his order, he couldn't help but speak again. "You run this place?" "Yes," she said, setting the coffee on the counter nervously. "It's lovely," he said sincerely. "The coffee smells as good as it tastes." Wine felt her cheeks heat. "Thank you, that means a lot." "Wine's mine. No way this handsome man is talking to me. Does my hair even look good?" "Ugh, whatever. I'll have to visit again," he said. "You're welcome, anytime," I blurted, then immediately wanted to smack myself. I didn't even know this man, and yet his presence left me flustered. He smiled faintly, finishing his coffee. "I'll hold you to that wine." Wait, how did he know my name? Before I could ask, he was gone, leaving a generous tip on the counter and an odd warmth in my chest. At home, 3 days later, my step-parents sat me down with grim expressions. "You're getting married," my stepmother announced. I stared at her, her words not quite sinking in. "What?" "To a very powerful man," my stepfather added. "This is a good match, Ryan. You should be grateful." "Grateful? For being sold off like some commodity? Who is he?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Jeon Jungkook," my stepmother said. "You'll meet him at the wedding." Jeon Jungkook. The name almost sent shivers down my spine. I'd heard whispers about him, a mafia lord who ruled the underworld with an iron hand. And they wanted me to marry him? "I can't do this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have a choice," my stepfather snapped. "Arrangements are made. If you even take one wrong step, you won't be fed until your wedding. Understood?" He spoke harshly. I stormed out, my heart pounding, but deep down I knew there was no escaping this because my stepdad was also involved in mafia things, and it wouldn't be hard for him to marry me to another mafia if not him. It's better if I marry him, at least I would be safer there. Somewhere, I was also relieved that I wouldn't have to see my step parents' faces again. On the wedding day, I'd spent the last few days in a fog of anxiety, trying to imagine what my life would be like with a man I'd never met. Well, except had I met him, the man from the coffee shop lingered in my mind. Could it be? No, it was impossible. The ceremony was a blur. I kept my head down as I walked down the aisle, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. When I finally stood beside him, I dared a glance up. He was the man from the coffee shop. My eyes went wide without my permission and my jaw dropped. I'm sure he bit back a laugh at my horrific expressions. You? I whispered, my voice barely audible. His lips twitched into a playful smile. Me, he said while tickling his head and winking at me. Oh, my poor heart. The priest's words washed over me as the only thing I could hear was my loud thumping heart. And before I knew it, he lifted my veil. His touch was gentle, almost reverent. You're beautiful, he murmured, leaning in to brush a soft kiss against the corner of my lips. I felt my cheeks heat up, my mind whirlwind of confusion and relief. Was it possible that this terrifying man was also kind? Or am I too delusional? At the mansion, the drive to his mansion was surprisingly silent. I keep sneaking glances at him, trying to reconcile the gentleman from the coffee shop with the dangerous mafia lord I've heard about. When we arrived, he opened the car door for me and helped me up. Welcome home, he said softly, his eyes searching mine for something I couldn't quite identify. Home? This doesn't feel like home. It felt like a giddle cage. As soon as I stepped out, he scooped me up in his arm. Jungkook, I gasped, clutching his shoulders. You're my wife now, he said with a small smile. Let me take care of you. My heart raced as he carried me to the room. Was this scare or control? I kept quiet as I didn't want to test his anger on the wedding day itself. After changing into a simple nightgown, I sat on the edge of the massive bed, my nerves fraying with each passing second. You'd stepped out to speak with his guards, and I couldn't stop my thoughts from spiraling. What kind of man was he really? Was I safe here? When he returned, I froze. He walked over, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he didn't want it to scare me. Why? He said gently, crouching in front of me. This left me stunned at first. He was a mafia boss. Why the hell was he sitting on his knees for me? Secondly, I made a direct eye contact with him, which almost made my heart stop. I quickly averted my gaze from him. Look at me. I hesitated, then again met his gaze. His eyes were soft, almost pleading. I know you're scared, he said, and I know I'm not what you imagined for a husband, but I need you to know something. I wasn't exactly scared of him because he was a mafia, but I was too nervous and too clumsy to not provoke his anger. This is what made me scared. I swallowed hard. What? I love you, he said simply, eyes widened. What? How? We barely know each other, I said, but quickly pursed my lips. He gave me a small smile and continued. You might not know me, but I've known you for months, he admitted. I've watched you, Ryan, not in a creepy way, he added quickly. I couldn't stay away. You're everything I've ever wanted. My cheeks flushed, and I looked up. He has been watching me? Good taste, I would say. I don't know what to say, I said by looking down, too shy to meet his gaze. Wasn't I just a second ago scared of him? Guess what? Handsome men are too hard to resist, even the scary ones. You don't have to say anything, he said softly. I just need you to know that I would never hurt you. You are safe with safe. The word wrapped around me like a blanket. Could I trust him? Can I hold you? He asked, his voice barely above whisper. Unsure of what to say, I nodded slowly. I mean, what could go wrong with the handsome man that I actually imagined being my husband just a few hours ago? He climbed onto the bed, pulling me into his arms. I stiffened at first, but his warmth and the steady beat of his heart began to soothe me. Though I was feeding into my delusion, I was still unfamiliar with all such physical contacts as I have never experienced these before. Though I was relieved to see him as my husband, all the marriage was new to me and forced upon me. You fit perfectly, he murmured, pulling me back to reality. Pressing a soft kiss to my forehead, like you were made for me. I felt my lips curve into a small smile. Thank you for being kind. He chuckled, the sound low and warm. You don't have to thank me for that. You deserve kindness, Ryan. Gathering my courage, I leaned up and kissed his cheek. His eyes widened in surprise, and a faint blush spread across his cheeks. You're adorable, he said, grinning. Before I could protest, he started peppering my face with kisses, making me laugh despite myself. Jungkook, I squealed, trying to push him away. He suddenly stopped and looked at me, and I'm not kidding when I say a shiver ran down my spine, thinking he was mad. He quickly softened his gaze, noticing my terrified expressions. Shaky. Why do you look at me like that? I told you I won't hurt you, baby. Ryan, I'm sorry. This is all just new to me. But Jungkook, I want you to know that I want to give us a chance, to give this marriage a chance. He looked at me and smiled gently. You're everything to me, and I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this marriage wouldn't be so bad